Okay, awesome. So we are officially recording. This is the Coaches Kickstart Club call. It is November 15th, 2018. We have a bunch of people on video with us, as well as about 4 people that are phoning in, which is great. So in the Coaches Kickstart Club call, we have some new members that are here with us this time, and some people who are been around with us for a long time. We have been running the Coaches Kickstart Club call for many, many, many years now, and typically it's the 3rd Wednesday of every month, and depending on our calendar, so we had to change it a little bit. And this is where we talk about all things coaching. So sometimes it's about coaching skills, sometimes it's about business development. Today it's going to be about corporate and team coaching, but Karen and I love to be able to share some of our best practices, answer some questions, etc. So my name's Jen Barley. I'm right here. And then Karen.
Hello, that would be me.
That is Karen. So Karen and I have been coaching for quite a long time. I've been coaching since 2007. And Karen, you've been coaching since?
2010.
2010. Long and the short story of it all is that we had our own businesses. We ended up meeting, we fell in love, we got married, and we own our business together. So that all happened since 2012. So one of the things that we bring to the table are 2 completely different, unique spins on the world. So I come from a corporate background, and Karen comes from
a law enforcement background, was in the cop world for 25 years and 2 months, and retired as a police chief back in 2010 from a town in Monmouth County, New Jersey. So yeah, Jen and I see the world very similar, but from very different perspectives, like all of us do.
Yes. So that's a little bit of background for some of the new folks on the call. So let's just jump right into it. So today we decided we wanted to talk about corporate and team coaching because about 60% of our business is working with corporations and teams. And we absolutely love it. We are having a blast doing it, and we have learned a lot along the way. So we're here to answer some questions about what is team and corporate and leadership coaching. And we even had people put on a Facebook page some of those questions. So Kara, why don't we start with a couple write-ins, and then we'll go live to questions. Sound good?
That's great.
All right. So the first question that we got is, I didn't see the top question. I'm going to do that later. The first question that we got is, what are the best structures for a workshop for teams, and how do you get people to participate? So one of the things is, I'm going to start with this, and then Karen's going to share some of her ideas of what she really likes to do as well. The best structure for a workshop for us is to be able to customize the content for the participants. So we meet with the team leader of whoever's hiring us to say, what are your objectives? What are your concerns? What would benefit the team? And really, what's the end state that we're going for? And most of the time, it's not always, but most of the time it's going to be a multi-month program. We usually do about like 6 months is our ideal, where we meet with many different workshops, and then we have individual coaching that happens in between that. So the structure is that we always do foundational work, and then we build on it so that each time we're meeting with the team, we're cementing the knowledge that they're learning. The way, though, that we do it is we are highly, highly, highly interactive. So we can talk at people all day, but our most successful programs are when we actually get people to interact, do the learning. We feel the wisdom of the team is what we need to tap into, and so we have to make sure that people are talking. A couple of different things that we recommend with getting interaction is have some form of icebreaker that is done at the beginning, and preferably not something super cheesy, right? So meaning that gets them talking about themselves, things that's really easy to be able to go. Sometimes we'll do something where we have, get in groups of 3 and find 10 things you have in common that don't include anything work related or clothing or body parts. right? So it's a good way to get them talking. They talk about the commonalities. We see who can get it done first, all of that. That's a real super fun one. Sometimes we'll even make teams come up with, small groups, they'll come up with a haiku. If you remember the Japanese poem with a 5-syllable, 7-syllable, 5-syllable format, we'll have them come up with a haiku of their view of the team. And that's super fun as well. So anything that we can do to get them talking to each other, as opposed to going around the room and calling on each person, because it sets the stage. The other thing that we will do often is many small group activities. So obviously flip charts, no more than 4 people at a flip chart, so everybody's involved. And we will make them make lists and brainstorm and do all sorts of things. If you are working with in a workshop and you talk to, we learned this in the very beginning, if you talk to the entire group and ask a question, if you're getting dead silence and responses, it means they're not comfortable talking in front of that many people. At that moment, you say, get in groups of 2 and share your thoughts about X, Y, and Z. Because if there's only 2 people in the group, it forces them to interact. So, so those are some different things that we do. Another thing that we do to have everybody have a voice is often we will use a voting system. So let's say we were just in with a team the other day and we were coming up with, this was a little bit different. This was more about facilitation around some business needs. And it was, they had to figure out how to close the $17 million gap and increase sales. So what we did is we broke people into small groups. We came up with the topics together about how they were going to conquer this, put the flip charts around the room. They went to where they had ideas, wrote them on the flip charts, and then we did what's called our green dot method, which is very unique, right, Karen?
It's really your green dot method, Jen.
It is. You take green stickers and you get 3 of them and you vote for your favorite ideas. So that's another way that everybody gets to participate. Karen, why don't you talk a little bit about quiet brainstorming?
Yeah, before I say that, I still don't understand why we couldn't just take a green magic marker. But anyway, Jen likes this.
I will tell you why. The stickers feel fun.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so before I talk about quiet brainstorming, I think that one of the big things, though, is that what Jen was talking about before is you need to know what the intention of your workshop is, like the real intention, because sometimes what people say they want isn't necessarily what they want. So it's about going in and actually doing some really, asking some really great, almost like interview questions of the person that's bringing you in to find out what it is that that they want when they're walking out the door. But then I would also recommend finding out, well, if we asked your people that with this, what would they want when they're walking out the door too? One of the big things too, even just kind of piggybacking on some of the stuff that Jen said, I think that what we really stress is the experiential kind of training, the hands-on kind of training, because we both used to kind of do this training where we essentially talked at people for 10 hours a day. And although we had great content, it was long for people. And the thing is that was more lecture style. We don't do that at all anymore. We provide information, but then we get people to experience the information that we're actually putting out there. We really reinforce the fact that we're not experts. Like, for example, we did a conference for actuaries on ethics. Now, we are not actuaries and we are not experts on actuarial ethics. However, we made it really clear that we weren't, but we also had situations, and we brought in Joanne, who is an actuary, who's one of our friends who we do work with. And the thing is, she knew what kind of examples and what kind of, ethical things come up for actuaries. But then based on that, we're able to pull out things and we're able to ask questions because we're not really in the story with them. So that's just one thing I wanted to throw out there too. And in addition to the months of workshops that we do with people, when we set up the 3-month program, the 6-month program, the 9-month program, we also do like the one-off kind of things, like for the actuaries. Mm-hmm. And then the cool thing is we get asked back. We've done presentations now for actuaries for like 4 years, and we're even going next year. in addition to that, I mean, we did a thing for the AAUW. What does that stand for again, Jen?
Oh, it's a gender women's equity organization.
And we went and we did, a presentation for them down in Maryland. And the cool part about that is it was just a one-time thing, but the cool part about that is then things spin off from that. So now we're going to Madison, Wisconsin in February to deliver what we delivered there. So we do some one-off things. So I don't want you to think that it's just like, oh my gosh, I got to put together this whole big long program. We just want you to get out there and do groups, because then you don't know what's going to happen from that part of it. Now, quiet brainstorming, the interaction that you get in the groups. Normally you have introverts and you have extroverts, and obviously you have the ambiverts in the room. And the big thing about the quiet brainstorming tactic is that you let the people that normally don't talk out loud as much have a voice. You'll see that when Jen and I kind of work here, she's going to do 90% of the talking. Maybe not today, but she's going to do 90% of the talking. And it doesn't mean that I don't have ideas. It doesn't mean that things aren't going on, but it's just going to be the way Jen processes things versus the way I process things. So when we have a class and we want to have everybody's interaction, what we do is we tell them we're going to have a quiet brainstorming session, and we'll ask a question. And then what we do is we give everybody Post-it notes, and we give them however many Post-it notes they want, like, 3, 4, 5 Post-it notes. And we have them jot down their ideas, or we have them jot down the things that are spinning around in their head. And then what we do is we collect the Post-it notes and we put them underneath the question on a flip chart. Then the great part about that is that people don't know what the VP says. People don't know what the boots on the ground guy says. And it gives all the people in the room a voice. And it's kind of unbiased, because it's not like, oh, wait, I need to suck up to the boss because they said X, Y, and Z, because nobody knows what they said. So this tactic has worked insanely well for us in all sorts of organizations. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's the beauty industry, doesn't matter if it's the automobile industry, doesn't matter where it is, it works. And it works really, really well. So it's funny, Jen, because I'm kind of gone now and you just walked away.
No, here I am. I went to grab a book. So obviously there's a lot of different types of places and ways to learn how to do different activities. And this is a really great book. It's called Game Storming, and it is a playbook for innovators, rule breakers, and change makers. It's by David Gray. And if you just look up Game Storming, that's a great one. It has lots of different ideas and shows you how to do it, a lot of Post-it activities. So we definitely recommend this if you're looking for types of activities. Karen, I'm sorry, when you said the quiet brainstorming, you mentioned it was anonymous, right?
Yeah, we could we collect them. And then we put them up. So it's not even like you're sitting there going, the people are going, oh, wait, let me see where that person puts their Post-it. We collect them.
Yeah. It's so funny, though, because with one organization that we do this with a lot, I do always say to the senior VP, what color pen are you writing with? So, because I just want to sort of track her ideas and see how things are going. Okay, so let me, let's do one more topic and then we'll open it up. And Karen, I'm going to jump to number 4 on the list. So this is actually was sent in by Erica, who's on the call. And then she says that basically, about a specific engagement, and she said, we have session 2 of 2 with the team next week. They're clearly interested in doing more work together, and they will be likely looking for me to give recommendations, and it's the first time they've hired an outside person. So here's my recommendation. When you make your proposal for any gig that you do where there's opportunity to potentially work more. So like, for example, we're not going to do this with the SOAs. We would not, and we wouldn't do it with AAUW. But when we have, sometimes let's say we're working with one company on their sales team. In fact, this happened with a pharmaceutical company. We came in and we did a 2-day workshop. Part of our proposal is we will have a 1-hour debrief meeting after the workshop to share our observations. So we just build that in the proposal. The reason is because that's where you get to bring up, I'm saying pitch, but bring up new ideas. So what we do is we start off that hour meeting and we say, so what do you guys think worked really well? What benefits have you seen since we were with your team? What do you think are the concepts that really stuck you're gonna be able to leverage and pick up and move forward with? So we're gonna pull out that information, and then we're gonna send to them, we may send it beforehand, but we'll send to them, here's our observations, right? So I'll say something like, in such and such exercise, it looked like the direct sales force really feel that they need more mentoring and to be on the same page, and that the training isn't where it needs to be. So we'll pull that from the data we receive. Here's our recommendation. Boom. And an example of that one was, the Monday morning sales meeting is not effective. That's our observation. Here's our recommendation on how you can improve that. So some of them will be some easy, quick fixes, value add, go run on your own. Other things are going to be, and we come in and work with the team. So you structure that in, because that's where your proposal is. I never worry about the next gig I'm going to get with the team, I should say, ever. Because if that meeting is built in, that's when those discussions happen. It allows me to be, and Karen, I always say me, I'm working on that we can be 100% present in what we're doing, knowing the conversation isn't going to end. So some people have different names of what they call that. I've heard it called as a bounce meeting. So afterwards, and then you see what's going to stick and land. We just share observations. We did this when we went and did this big event for 250 people in Las Vegas, and as a company we worked with a lot, and we also got to spend a lot of time. So we told the senior VP, we said, hey, we're here all week with you guys in Vegas, like our 2 or 3 days. We have spare time. Let us know what you want us to pop in and do, and we're just at your disposal, right? So they're like, go meet with team A. I want you to see team B. I want you to see team C. So we walked in the room, to be honest, when they're doing their breakouts, and we're like, hey, we were told to come check you guys out. What do you need help with right now? They were great because they would say what they needed help with, and then we'd lead the conversation. We just start coaching the team towards whatever it is they needed help with. After a half an hour, we're like, okay, so we're going to leave it back with you guys to finish up the discussion. We got to go to the next team. At the end of that, we send a write-up to the senior VP saying, here's our observations from what we noticed. And from that particular gig, we got, oh, I should have looked this up beforehand. I would say we got 4 additional projects.
I think so too, but Jen, we're still getting them.
No, I know. From that.
And we had a meeting this morning. So the cool part about that too is when, we went in, everything was unexpected. It was kind of cool just going in and having conversations with people. And then, just giving the SVP a little bit of a heads up what we did. By the time we left Vegas and we landed in Newark, we had an email from the SVP saying, I want proposals for these 5 or 6 different areas in the organization. So and we went in there just like, okay, great, let's just go. Let's see what happens. And the biggest part about this, and Erica, with this question that you asked, the first thing that I actually wrote down was NATO. And if you guys know, I love acronyms, right? My biggest thing is NATO, not attached to outcomes. So if you go in to an organization and you can, and you think about it, right? If the goal is actually the experience of you being in there and having them have an insanely great experience, you're always going to hit your goal. And the cool part about that is then you don't have to worry about the outcomes. Now you could think in your head like, okay, hey, it'd be nice if something else popped up, but that can't be the focus. The outcome can't be the focus. The being in it needs to be. And I find that the more unattached we are, the more business we actually get. And the more in what we're in, when we're in it, we actually are.
Love it. So as a follow-up here, Melissa typed in and she said, I love the idea of a bounce debrief session. Would it be effective to do it after the workshop, say a week or so via Zoom? Completely. Yep. Yes, we do ours virtually most of the time, I would say, for the follow-up. A week after is great because they can see what the buzz in the office is. They can see what sticks. And you could do it. If you can get Karen, I'll be interested to see what you think. But if you can get more meetings through Zoom, they're better because people look you in the eye, they see your face, there's that human connection that goes with it. And these types of, if you can do your sales proposal, if you need to walk somebody through something you've written up, if you need to have a debrief meeting, I personally feel that the more you can be on camera with the person, it creates more of the atmosphere of a real relationship as opposed to somebody talking to you and answering email. Would you agree, Karen?
I hate to agree, but yes.
She doesn't like the camera thing because then we have to, well, not today. Today I'm wearing a Pink Floyd shirt. So obviously I choose my attire based on my audience, right? But it makes such a difference. So yes, a week or so after, build it in the proposal. Don't say, do you want it? Just say it comes with it.
And it's interesting though too, Jen, even just going a little off track for a sec here with the Zoom thing. We had a meeting last week with a team that we're working with, and we did an in-person thing, but some people couldn't be there in person. So we did a little bit virtual. So we couldn't see a lot of the virtual people. But we did a meeting with that same group and everybody was on Zoom last week. And the connection that was formed that made that team feel more connected. I don't want to say I didn't care if they were connected to me or not, but they were connected to me, but they were so much more connected to each other. It was so funny. One girl for 2 hours sat on this freaking call and she had a giant smile on her face. And then we saw her last week and I said, I gotta tell you, I gotta know, what the hell were you smiling at? And she said, I just loved being able to see the amazing people that I work with and to talk and have them, have us like a conversation instead of just being on the phone. And seriously, smiled for 2 hours and said that they want to start having all their team meetings by Zoom now because they're not all in the same place.
Good questions. All right, let's open it up to get a little bit more interaction. We do have some more written ones in, but what's coming up for you guys in terms of group and team coaching that you want to ask us on the fly? You can just unmute your microphone and go. Okay, go ahead, Lori. Hey, Lori.
Hey, it's been a long time. Yay. So I should know this, but I'm going to be honest that I don't really remember when it's actually coaching versus just a workshop.
Okay.
So, because I get it, obviously, if the engagement includes, because what I'm doing right now, most of my engagements do include some one-on-one plus the group stuff. But when is it really group coaching versus just a workshop?
That's a great question, and it's not something you should know or shouldn't know. It's a great question. So technically, if you're doing group coaching, it would be 100% you as the coach and the team as the client, right? Or the group as the client. And it would be just the asking of questions, the creating the trust and the intimacy, setting the coaching agreement, being able to find out what the team is working towards, and doing the coaching of the team. The workshop is going to be a little bit different because it's going to blend in some teaching concepts, right? So you may have something that you want to talk to people about, or or have a preset agenda. Today we're going to talk about trust, and I'm going to teach you some things about trust, and then we're going to discuss it. So it really depends on the format and how things are set up. We find that ours are coaching type conversations built into a workshop format. So what we mean by that is that we're still asking the provocative questions. We're still getting people to come up with their own answers and their own empowerment, but it will be a bit more guided towards specific activities that we have. What would you add to that, Kara?
I think too, and it's helping, like, so when we go into corporations, you know, and do the team coaching / facilitating, you know, there's a topic. So, and what happens is then the teams, it's about how do we get aligned and head towards a common goal or a common outcome. And then, so we have a topic, and maybe Jenn, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. I might want you to pull up our Kickstart Your Edge model. But the thing is,
twice in 1 week, Sullivan. Go ahead.
I know, right? And so we don't have to be experts on the content, but we're experts on the structure of what it is that we're trying to get out of them, but we're still asking those questions. And I think that a little bit different with the group coaching piece of this, actually, Jen, that just blew my screen right up, is what we're doing here is with groups. We could be talking about different groups. Like if we had a group coaching and people could come from different spots who might have a common interest, but they don't always have the same goal. So that's just a little bit different between the teams and the groups. But either way, what it is it's about, you know, pulling something out of them versus actually being the expert in the room. Because we don't have to be that expert.
And so with this model that Kara wanted to show is the blue ring, which for those on the phone are things like goals and strategies, emotional intelligence, trust, communication, accountability. Those are different types of things we get hired to come into an organization to help their teams with. So what can happen is we have the workshop with the coach approach to the facilitation of the learning and the discussion. But then what happens, Lori, is that we will often build in the one-on-one coaching in between the workshops that then will be truly coaching around what did you learn in this workshop? Where did you get triggered? You know, how are you actually living this? What's getting in your way? And being able to carry those themes through so people can start to apply it to their situation individually. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's helpful because my kind of main topic now is succession planning for small professional service firms.
Yeah.
And so it is, you know, it's communication, it's a lot of that's because I love the NATO and I love all, you know, Karen's acronyms. I use them a lot still. And so, but so much of it comes into play with just what isn't spoken. So a lot of my stealth work is that getting to the thing behind the thing and why they're not having those conversations to even get the process started. So, but now it's like I've got a few more, 2 clients where there's more than 2. So it's not just an owner successor. I've got my first firm that is, I'm actually coaching 5 people and there's some group elements and one-on-one for each of them, including the leaders. So it's my first one.
I love it. Congratulations. That's awesome. So the thing is that what I think is required of today's leadership and corporate coach is the ability to offer, call it whatever you want, trainings, workshops, facilitated discussions around a topic. Because if, Lori, you were to go into the firm and say, so what I'm going to help you guys do is get to the thing behind the thing of why it is that you're not taking the action that you want. They're like, we don't have time for that. That's what, you know, that's not going to work. But if you say, we're going to work on succession planning and how it's going to be effective in your organization, and you use the coaching for the thing behind the thing, it's brilliant, right? But there is the call that if this is work that you want to do, you have to be able to have some depth in how to be able to bring some of these concepts that people are hiring you for. There's this post, I'll find it. And maybe even post the consolidated list that we had in our Facebook group that asked for everybody's, if they wanted to participate, their last 5 coaching topics that they've coached private clients on. the amount that hit leadership was outstanding in terms of number. In fact, we had our assistant take that post and make a consolidated list and group it together. And I'll post it in the Facebook group so you guys can see what that is. But things around communication, around leadership, really were second to none in terms of some of the other topics. So that is something that's kind of required, is to be able to do more than one-on-one coaching. Now, if you're like going, crap, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do workshops or trainings or stuff. A great idea then is, how do you partner with people who love to do that, and you can do the one-on-one coaching. So there's a lot of different models. And then also there is totally, like we just spoke with a car manufacturer, large automobile company, and we were pitching our programs, right? So here's the idea. And they're like, we're just looking for a few external coaches now. Not a problem at all. We can talk about how to move that forward. It's not Karen and my sweet spot, but it's our team's sweet spot. So we can figure out how to do that. But there are organizations that are looking just for one-on-one coaches. So great question, Lori. So who else has a question? Go ahead, Trish.
Yeah, obviously you folks are doing your workshops together. Do you think it makes sense to partner with someone else? Like, how big of a crowd can a single person handle?
That's a great question. We do recommend partnering with people as long as they're a good fit to who you are. So Kara, do you want to take this one first?
So yeah, I do a lot of work for Facebook, and originally they had us partnering with people, and I thought it was great until I had to do it. And the reason why is because like I didn't really know them. So my recommendation is, if you're going to partner with somebody, you got to really know them and you got to know their style. And I'll be honest, it took a little while for Jenn and I to get there, because she's sitting there like, what?
It did.
We had totally different styles. Although there's a lot of similarities, when we first started working together, I mean, it was a little bit exhausting. And I learned so much, but it also was figuring out, how do we do this together? Because I was used to kind of going in and being like, all right, this is how I want to do it. She's used to going in and going, okay, this is how she wants to do it. And the interesting part about it is that we both thought different things were more important. So it's being able to really have the conversations ahead of time. What's important? What's the intentions? What messages do we want to get across? Because if you're going in two different directions, it gets frustrating as hell. And in the beginning, just expect the growing pains to be there. But you got to have the trust, and you got to have the communication to figure out what's working, what's not working, what do we need to make better.
And I would say, Trish, you know, the number, right? So if I was to say, so what's the number that you would really want a second person there? It depends on what it is. It depends on the group. It depends on a lot. But I'm going to say, I would say somewhere when you start getting above 25. Not that you need it, but it's just nice to have, because one of the things that I think Karen and I both do really well is we can really notice the energy in the room, but Karen notices different energy. It's like when we're watching basketball, she will notice the plays and the rebounds and what's happening on the court. And I'm paying, did you see that woman's hairstyle in the second row watching the game? Like, my observation skills are so different than hers. Or we'll walk down the street and I'm like, oh my God, did you see that? Not even on her radar, something else totally on hers. So the beautiful thing is being able to have a second set of watching the energy in the room when you get to that many people. What would be your number, Kara?
You know, I gotta tell you, Jen, it's gonna depend on what it is you're actually doing. Because, you know, I mean, I've done groups by myself with like 50 people. And it was, I mean, it's more to manage, but I'm not saying that you can't do it. But the thing is that even if you're doing it by yourself, I still think it's nice to have a support person even if they're not doing something with you, to just have somebody there to kind of be your, the one who's gonna, if the room's too cold, they're gonna take care of it. Or if somebody's having a meltdown, they're gonna take care of it. Or somebody wants different questions, they're gonna take care of that. So even if somebody's not technically teaching with you, to have somebody in the room that's your support person, I think that's really important.
Yeah, good question. All right, who else?
Me.
Yeah,
Finally.
go ahead, Dragana.
Hey.
Hi. Always your lovely, contagious, spiritual energy. Finally, I get a chance to basically be with you. My question, or actually a couple of those, but they come all from the same source. So when you structure a program, okay, 3, 6, 9 months, it doesn't matter. Which criteria do you use? How many times we meet, and how long is each session? And how do you choose the agenda?
Okay.
I've done the emotional intelligence testing. I've done everything. I more or less have the diagnostics. I already know the problems, but how do you actually go about it?
That's a great question. Do you want to go first, Karen?
Yeah, you go first on that one.
Okay. So a lot of it is really what's their objective and how far do they think they are from the objective, right? This is who we need to be. So Karen and I always approach things from what we call looking at what the gap is. So what we mean by that is here, and I know you know what it is. So on one hand, you have where you are and then where you want to go. And all this space in between is the gap. Like what's in the way? What's the obstacles? What are you not looking at? What are your blind spots? What are your beliefs that are not helping you move from here to there? Like all of those kinds of interesting questions. So depending how big that gap is going to depend on how often we need to meet with them.
Do you do with the group the gap thing together? I mean, we do together the gap thing?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
To a degree. So we do a mini gap with the leader so that we can formulate the program. We do a large gap with the group. And it's pretty cool, actually. And when Karen's kind of filling it in, I'll see if I can find, I know you've seen this also, Dragana, but other people haven't. I'll show a visual of what that looks like when Karen's talking so that I can look for it in my computer. But then then it's going to be, what does this team really need to be successful? And what's the frequency on it? We really, really want to propose once a month being in front of the team. And the reason is because they will push that time out because of deadlines or strat meetings, or they have quarterly ends. So even if you say a month, you might be looking at 6 weeks. My recommendation is, if possible, to get let's say you're doing a 6-month program, once a month, get them all on the calendar from the get-go, if you can. That's ideal.
Sorry, 2 times a month, is it too much?
It depends on the team.
Okay.
It depends on the team. I wouldn't think that would be too much. I definitely would say not once a week, because then it becomes an obligation and a chore. You could even do once every 3 weeks, right? So just a lot of times we think about things in numbers like from a month, but you could do every 3 weeks would even be helpful. You have to give people enough time to integrate what they're learning so they build on it. Otherwise, it just becomes noise. So I would even say I prefer 3 over 2.
And I think,
do you do something with them during these 3 weeks, or no follow up, nothing?
Yeah, and that's what I was just going to say. That there has to be something else with stickability. So one of the first programs that we did, that was an extended program. We did a 9-month program with this one company. And we actually met the people 3 times. Mm-hmm. So we met them 3 times for 2 days at a time. But in between that time, over that 9-month period, they had 27 coaching sessions. Okay. So they had 27 individual coaching sessions. So they were all assigned a coach. So we would do the 2 days. They would get the coaching sessions. We would come back and do 2 more days. They would get coaching sessions. We would come back and they would get coaching sessions. Because what happens to everything that we kept doing was just reinforced and reinforced and reinforced. And it's interesting because we did the program a second time, and the company said, hey, we only want to do 6 months. We only want you to come twice. And the interesting thing at the end of that, those people, every single one of those people that was surveyed at the end said they needed more time. Yeah. So the interesting thing too is it's how you're setting it up. What's the stickability going to be? Because if you're not reinforcing that, and if you're not creating a new language, then it's not going to stick. For example, Jen and I just started working with this company a couple weeks ago in northern New Jersey. And we dealt with some hourly people, and then we dealt with their managers. And then the week later, we actually did a thing for a bunch of the women of the organization. And we started to use our language with all 3 groups. And the cool thing is now our language is becoming their language. And what's happening is we're getting text messages and emails from the higher ups in the company. This place is buzzing. And the thing is, it's because they're changing the language and they're looking at things different. So it's what you need to have that sticking, because if you don't, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
You know, I want to just throw one thing on that. It's interesting because, so we had to go in and meet the executive team of this company who we hadn't met. And because we're doing their company end of the year meeting in December. So we're like, what do you want us to talk about? They're like, well, why don't you talk about who you are, what your capabilities are? We're already hired by these people, right? So it's not like all of a sudden the executive team is going to make any decisions. So we said, how about we send all that information in advance? We'll be there to answer questions, and then we take them through an exercise to give them an experience of what they're going to experience. And it was short. It was a half an hour. We had a half an hour window, and it was perfect because we didn't have to convince them. We just had to show them what was possible. And I just share that as sort of the add-on to what Karen was saying there. So a lot of times we have to sort of make things up as we go. Another way to do that with a proposal, though, let's say you're thinking six times a meeting would be good. Yeah. Have an objective for meeting 1, meeting 2, meeting number 3, and say rest determined on group's needs moving forward. Yeah. The other thing we always have is all proposals are subject to change in terms of content based on what the group needs. So,
okay.
And
how long is each session? Actually, when you meet this once, how long is it?
It depends. Some that we're doing right now are just 4-hour sessions, and some are full days. Okay. And I guess we've done a couple 2-day ones as well. But normally I would say the average is probably 6 hours. Okay. Would you say, Karen?
Yeah, pretty much. Most of ours are 6 hours now. And it's
purely interactive, teaching and actually immersing people into it.
Yep, the coach approach to delivering information.
Okay, yep. And one thing more. Okay, once you've done the diagnostics and you really see, layers and layers of issues. Once we decide what are the top priorities, actually, how long do you devote sessions to this one issue?
Depends on how deep the issue is.
Or on openness. Does it depend on the issue?
It totally depends. Yep. Mm-hmm. But let's say that you're doing something like you have trust and you only do one thing on trust, and then you come back and then you do something on, let's say, healthy conflict, okay? Mm-hmm. But the recommendation is you got to start the meeting with trust. The last time we talked about trust, how has trust shown up differently for this group since we last met? Just like you would do with a one-on-one coaching, right? So what did you work on while you were gone? So who here can give evidence to how you actually built trust over the last 3 weeks? Okay. And we start with that and then morph into the new topic.
Is it what you call, what you said at the beginning of this call, foundation? This is what you meant by foundation when you build up?
Yep. Okay. For the most part. I mean, we always do our foundations, our thoughts, feelings, actions, results. We call it TFAR, no matter what. We do MSU, make shit up all the time, and that is non-negotiable. That's just what we do.
Just one more question. I apologize, everyone, for owning this time. It's just one thing. when you actually start, when the people meet, do you do some kind of check-in where they are per individually with their mind, thoughts, whatever, like a 2-minute check-in or something like this? Do you do that? Is it necessary? Or
we don't do it unless it's a structured coaching call that we're getting paid for. It's just, it's too much to manage. And what happens is if you're working with the team and you do a 2-minute check-in, it becomes about the individual.
okay.
So we really want people to speak up what's going on for them in the team meeting.
So
Okay.
a couple questions coming in here. Thank you very much, Ragana. It's funny, Jen, people are asking, Erica and Cam are both asking what exercise we use. And it's funny, ladies, because we came up with a new one. Well, I will be 100% transparent. Jen came up with a new one that we just did that day. We had no idea how it was going to go, but it went really, really well.
I'll explain it really quick. Can I do that?
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, one of their campaigns at their company, you're talking about the executive one, right?
Yep.
Okay. So one of their campaigns that we're launching for them is called the Power of One. That's their philosophy, and they talk about the power of one, but they're not doing anything with it. So we're having a Power of One kickoff. So then we thought, so what could we do with these people? So we gave everybody an index card, and we said, think of one person in your life who has had a direct, amazing, positive impact in your life that you look up to, that you admire, that really shaped who you are today, and write their name on a piece of paper. So they wrote it on the index card. And then we had them turn to the person next to them, because why? If they talk to their neighbor, they'll talk to the group, and say, tell the other person who you picked and why they had such an impact. And you just have a couple minutes each, and then they all told their stories. It was my boss, it was my third grade teacher, it was this, it was that. But it got everybody talking about something that was emotionally important to them, right? So then we said, great, now you're done. On your index cards, write down 5 qualities that person brought to the table. And we gave examples: patience, determination, stick-to-itiveness, humor. Doesn't matter, write down 5. So then we say, okay, so who wants to share your 5 lists? You just have to read the list. You don't have to tell us anything else. And people would raise their hands. So now what we're doing is we're bringing out the interaction 2 by 2 to the big group to get people talking. People shared their lists. And then we said, circle the one that had the biggest impact on you. So they'd circle the one characteristic, right? We put a slide up and we did a fill in the blank, and I'm probably going to miss the words up, but it said something like, in the honor of blank, I will bring blank to have a positive impact at work. And they all wrote it down. So, but then every single person, and there was, 20,
25 people.
25 people in the room. Every single person went around the room. We said, oh, you only do the one sentence. Don't tell us the background story, but we want you to read it. So then they said, in honor of Aunt Mary, I am bringing straightforward, honest conversations to have impact on this team. And it was so cool because every single person had to answer it. And some people would say Aunt Mary, and someone called somebody Mrs. Somebody, which made me think it was happened in grade school, right? So then 26 people got to share who impacted their life and then how they're going to carry it forward. Then the coaching questions were, hearing this commitment from your team, what changes for you? If everybody was to bring these characteristics, what would be different for this team? If you were to show up with this as your motto every day, how would you treat people different? Those are the great wisdom in the room. And not everybody, but many, many, many people share it. And it was a room of white men. I will say that. I was like, wow, I haven't been in there was just a whole bunch of men. It looked very old school, I will say. And they were in it and participating with it. And then we wrapped it up and we left. So that's an example of an exercise. Not a big deal, but it got them to be vulnerable. It got them to connect to emotion, which is better in these situations than their head. And it got them to make commitments to one another. So I just thought I would share it. Okay, the Power One concept came from the company. Kara, I do want to show the gap exercise real quick. Because I said I would find a photo?
Yes, dear.
Thank you. So here's an example, and I know, Dragana, you've seen this before, of an exercise that we take people through. This is a rather large group that we've done. We've done this with as small of teams as 6, and this is probably the biggest. I don't know, Canada was pretty big too. Another team was pretty big. But this is something that we talk about. On the left side is where they are, on the right side is where they want to be, and in the middle is all of the obstacles that's preventing them from crossing the edge. This is one of the exercises that we do in our coach training program, that we teach everybody how to do this particular one, but it's a great way to get people's perspectives on what's really preventing the team from being an amazing team. So we actually take it through a physical activity. Thank you, Karen. Is it time?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the other thing. We got to wrap it up. But we have more to talk about.
But it's over time, Jen. It's 3 minutes past time.
I know. Karen's a time stickler. Here's the deal. So we're going to post this up on Facebook. You can write down any additional questions that you have. I know Penelope had some that we didn't answer. Rebecca did as well. Donnelise had some things about pricing. And we're going to share some of these ideas. So, oh, I love it, Barb. Yes, Barb, you've done this gap exercise, right? Being a part of the program. I think it was in a law firm, and it went really, really good. So that's good. So that's all we got, right, Kara? Oh, I have one more thing to say. We are going to do our 6-part leadership webinar series. That's a free series that's going to be starting December 4th. And we're going to do a whole bunch of things with how to build trust with teams, how to manage sticky situations, exploring team coaching trends, all of that stuff. And we're going to start that in December. It's just going to be a free sign up like these calls are. So we'll let you know when that is in case this is something that's super interesting to you. Okay, part us, Kim. I'm sorry, I just saw Kim's message. Karen, send us off with good cheer.
Good cheer. Happy Thanksgiving for those of you in the US of A, and those who aren't, just have an amazing week.
All right, talk to you later. Bye.
Bye, guys.